I'm going live now, and it says I'm live. I'll text the chat and tell them I am. Oh, is it all good now? Oh, hey, Rawa just commented hi. Hi. You got it? All right. Okay. There's about 3 people now. That's good. All right. Hi everyone. Welcome back to the Nest grammar and reading slash writing live stream. I hope everyone is having a good day, staying safe. Oh, okay. So yesterday we left off at the first part of chapter 1. So I'm just going to continue reading from there. Um, Again, if you don't have the copy of the story, I hope you can see it through the screen. If not, there should be it should be available on this website. So it's englishlessons.blogspot.com, and this is everything that we've given. And yep, so you can see you can download or just view the story from this website. The PDF is there, all of it, all the pages that we are going to be reading through the next few weeks. So it's here, englishlessons.blogspot.com. I'll zoom in case you can't see that. No, never mind, it won't let me zoom in. Okay. But it's English Lessons, so lessons with an A .blogspot blogspot.com. All right. So, without further ado, let us start. So, I started with Lavery. He was at home at 623 Altair Street, down in Bay City. He didn't want to talk to me, but nobody wants to talk to private detectives. No, he told me angrily. I didn't go to El Paso with Crystal Kingsley. Okay, so we sleep together, but I don't want to marry her. She's very rich and money is nice, but Crystal's a difficult lady. I last saw her about 2 months ago. I sat and watched him. So why did she write that letter from El Paso? Don't know. She likes playing games. Phrasal verbs. So we'll cover that in a Saturday session. So how it works with the classroom is that for Saturdays I focus mainly on grammar things. So phrasal verbs, models, all of that stuff. And then on Sundays I focus on teaching sentence structure. So that's what we're going to be working on today. But if you tune in to the Saturday sessions, we will be covering phrasal verbs soon. And you can also find the handout if you want to learn a little bit more on your own on the website. Pretty sure we got phrasal verbs somewhere. No? Okay, I'll upload the document when I get the time. Um, don't know. She likes playing games, stupid games. It wasn't a very good story, and he knew it. I asked him some more questions, but his story stayed the same. I went out and sat in my car outside his house. I thought about Lavery. Perhaps he went away with Mrs. Kingsley, and then they had a fight. But where did Mrs. Kingsley go after that? A big black Cadillac drove up and stopped at the house across the street. A thin man with a black doctor's bag got out and went into the house. I looked at the name on the door, Dr. Albert S. Almore. Doctors know a lot about people. Perhaps this one knew Lavery. I saw Dr. Almore at the window. He watched me carefully, and his face was angry and afraid. Then he sat down and made a telephone call, but he watched me all the time. 5 minutes later, a green car came along and stopped at the doctor's house. The driver walked across the road to my car. Waiting for somebody? He asked. I don't know, I said. Am I? Don't get clever with me, he said coldly. I'm Detective DeGarmo, Bay City Police. Why are you watching Dr. Almore's house? I looked out of my car window at him. He was a big man with a square face and very blue eyes. What's all this about? I asked. I don't know Dr. Almore, and I'm not interested in him. I'm visiting a friend. What's the doctor afraid of? I asked the questions. Not you, he said. Go on. Get out of here. Move! He walked away and went into Dr. Almore's house. Back in Los Angeles, I phoned Mr. Kingsley and asked him about Dr. Albert St. Almore. Oh, why is it turning to the next page? Oh, there we go. I don't know him, but he was Crystal's doctor for a time, he told me. His wife died a year and a half ago. She killed herself. It was very sad. I got into my car again and started for the mountains. Dr. Almore was afraid of something. But what? Okay, so we'll continue on with chapter 2 next weekend. And we'll move on to the slides now. So, just a little bit of explanation about the vocabulary in the story. So, I don't know how many of you know what private detectives are. So, a detective is a person who investigates. Investigate means to find proof or find answers to a crime, like missing people or murder. So, for the type of big crimes like robberies or murders, the police force they usually have a detective. So he's higher ranking in the police system, and he solves and finds answers to all of the bigger mysteries, the bigger crimes, and he finds the bigger criminals, basically. Um, so However, a private detective is a detective who is not a member of the police force. So there's someone that you can hire privately and you pay to investigate something for you. Um, so in the story, the main character is not a member of the police. He's a private detective and he's been hired by Mr. Kingsley to find um, Mr. Kingsley's missing wife. Hope that explanation is okay. So I don't know how many of you have been coming to the classrooms regularly before we went online, but I'll have a quick recap about sentence structures. So sentences are made up of something called a clause, and a clause is formed by joining together words and phrases. So one sentence can have more than one clause, and the clauses usually have these following elements. So you can have a subject. The subject is who or what is performing the action. in the clause. The verb is the action being performed in the sentence. This can be a verb or a verb phrase, so it doesn't just have to be one word. You can have an object. So an object is who or what is affected by the action, who or what experiences the action. So the subject gives the action, the object receives the action. And then you have a complement. So a complement gives additional information about the subject or the object. And you have the adverbial. The adverbial, I'm sure you can guess from the base word adverb, gives information about how or when or where the action, the verb, takes place. So all of these elements, they don't have to be single words in a clause. They can be phrases. You can have a subject that has that's more than one word, a verb that has more than one word, and so on and so forth. So, like I said last time, you have about 6 basic clause types. So these are usually how a clause is arranged in terms of structure. So you have elements just means like in kind of like ingredients. So um, imagine like a house. So imagine that a sentence is a whole house, and then it's made up of different parts. So the roof, the walls, those are different clauses, and then the elements, which are the subject or the verb or the object, are the little bricks that make up the walls or the roofs. I don't have something to draw on. Hold on. So actually, there's some paper here I could use. Do I have a pen? I do not have a pen. Never mind then. But yeah, just imagine that a sentence is a whole house. The house is made up of a roof, different walls, a door, and then you have little bricks that make up those walls. So elements just means parts. So a subject, verb, object, complement, adverbial, those are the parts, those are the elements that make up a clause, and then the clauses join together to form a whole sentence. Hope that's okay. Alright, so back to the 6 basic clause types. So you can have a subject and a verb clause, a subject verb object clause, a subject verb complement clause, a subject verb adverbial clause, a subject verb object complement clause, a subject verb object adverbial clause. So these are not all of the clause types you can have, so sometimes they can be arranged differently, but this is usually what most sentences will be arranged like. So here are some examples you can find in the story of all the different clauses. So remember that a clause isn't a whole sentence in itself. A sentence can be made up of different clauses. So for example, subject and verb, he asked, I said. He is the subject, asked is the verb. I is the subject, said is the verb. So it's a subject and verb clause. And then you'll have subject, verb, object. So I started with slavery. I is the subject, started with the verb, and then who is the object receiving that verb, slavery. He didn't want to talk to me. So he would be the subject, and then the verb would be didn't want to talk, and then who is the object? Who didn't he want to talk to? Me. I am the object. So, and then you have subject, verb, complement clauses. So these are clauses where after the verb, usually it's something explaining, giving extra information about the subject. So for example, money is nice. So nice describes money, and that's why that's a subject verb complement clause. It wasn't a very good story. it is the subject, the verb is wasn't, and then what is it? We don't know anything about it. We need more information about it. A very good story. So that is the complement. It wasn't a very good story. Um, his story stayed the same. So his story, the subject, stayed the verb, and then the same gives us more information about the story. His story is just the same, it's always the same. So that is the complement. It gives us more information about the subject. Um, and then this one, it's a, can I, oh, sorry. So this one is a particularly long clause. I wanted to highlight this just to say that sometimes you can have compliments that are more than one word. So he was a big man with a very square face and very blue eyes. So this part, a big man with a very square face and very blue eyes, all of that tells us information about he. So all of this is a compliment. It doesn't always have to be just one thing, one word. And then subject verb adverbial. So he, subject, said verb coldly. Coldly describes how he said it. Um, it describes the attitude. Subject and verb. Yeah. Um, So someone's just asked what subject and verb are in English. It's just subject and verb. That's it. They're just words. They're just what they're called. Um, I'm not sure what they mean by that. Oh well. Yeah, they're just simple words really. Don't worry too much about them. Um, anyway, oh, coldly. So let me put that in the vocabulary as well. So, coldly. So, coldly is an adverb. Pay attention to the base word cold. So, when someone says cold, you think not hot. You think, oh, I'm shivering. It's cold. But when you say something does someone something coldly, it doesn't really mean physically cold. It means that their attitude is cold. So, um, um, I'll finish this first and then move on to that. Hold on. So, it means their attitude is emotionally cold. There's no warmth, there's no friendliness in their attitude. Um, Instead, for example, if I was angry at a friend, for example, I would act cold towards them. I would say things coldly. So instead of going, "Oh, hi, it's so nice to see you," this is an attitude that has warmth. It has friendliness. If I'm doing it coldly, I'll be like, "Oh, hey, what do you want?" There's that change. I'm not being friendly. I'm not being emotionally warm towards them. Hope that's okay. And could you repeat that question to me again, please? Hmm. You can just be like, oh, what is the sentence structure of this? So it might be helpful if I type that somewhere. So to ask um, for explanation about a sentence structure, you can just ask, what is the sentence structure, or what um, what are let's say what is the structure or the elements of this clause. So if I'd say that's if you want to ask about a sentence structure, if you just say what is the sentence structure, or what is the structure or the element of this clause, most people will probably get it. If not, you can just say like, oh, if they ask like, oh, what do you mean by that, you can just say, oh, what is the clause type, maybe like, what is the clause, so what is the clause type, is there a subject, a verb, and an object, or is there just subject verb complement? Yeah. um is that all right? Oh, okay. So yeah, it is called structure. So it actually it might be more helpful if I said structure instead of type. Honestly, don't worry too much about the specific words. As long as you say, clauses, or like you ask, oh, what's the subject or the verb or the complement or the object? What is the clause? What is in the clause? I'm pretty sure most people will understand what you're trying to ask. Um, okay. So, so let's just move on. So subject verb adverbial. He said coldly. Um, if we go back to the story, for example. So, um, in the story, the clause is right here. He said coldly. So if we think back about um, the situation in this story, this policeman is suspicious about our main character. He's suspicious about the private detective. He's thinking, why is he outside this house? Why is he just watching the doctor? Because he thinks he's watching the doctor. And instead of giving a clear answer, our main character just goes, I don't know, am I? So he says he's clearly not happy with our main character. He clearly has a bad attitude towards him. So he says, don't get clever with me, he said coldly. There is no friendliness, there is no warmth in there. And then um, yeah. And then another example of a subject verb adverbial clause is his wife died a year and a half ago. So this part is the adverbial because it describes when um, this character's wife died. So his wife, the subject, verb, died. And when did it happen? When did she die? A year and a half ago. Um, all right, and then we can have a subject, verb, object, um, complement clauses. So these are so she likes playing games, stupid games. So she is the subject, likes playing is the verb, and games is the object because she's playing games. The games are being played, and then this bit where's my mouse? This bit, stupid games, gives us more information about what type of games she likes to play. Um, of course, in this story, it doesn't actually mean board games. They're trying to say that she likes playing around. She likes being mysterious. She likes playing games. Um, okay. Ooh, okay. And then we have subject, verb, object, adverbial clauses. For example, he told me angrily. So he is the subject, told is the verb, me is the object. And then, how did he tell me? What is his attitude as he tells me? Angrily. He told me angrily. Um, he watched me carefully. He watched me all the time. So, carefully, all the time, angrily, all of this gives us information about the verb in the clause. It gives us more information about how the action is being performed or when the action is being performed. I've included a small bonus example here. It's not in the basic clause type, but sometimes you'll have a sentence that includes all of the elements in a clause. So subject, verb, object, adverbial, sorry, complement. I, subject, looked at, verb. What am I looking at? The name. And then where was I looking? On the door. And then what is the name? Dr. Albert St. Elmore. So on the door gives us more information about where I am looking. And then Dr. Albert S. Elmore um, gives us more information about the name. What is the name on the door? Dr. Albert. So I hope these examples paint a clearer picture of the clause types. We can move on. We're moving on to something slightly more confusing now. So pay attention. So a sentence can have two objects. It can have a subject verb object structure. This is because there can be two types of object. You can have a direct object and an indirect object. So a direct object experiences the verb action. It answers the question whom or what. And an indirect object is who or what the verb action is performed for or to. So it answers the question for whom or for what or to whom or to what. Oh, an adverbial is just what we say to explain the part of a sentence that it's an adverb. So we call this an adverbial because an adverb is a very specific word. However, an adverbial is the part of a clause um, that gives more information about the verb. So um, let me see if I can. So an adverb describes a word, describes a word that is an adjective giving more information about the verb. So she danced gracefully. For example, he ran quickly. And then, however, an adverbial describes the part of a sentence or the part of a clause that gives more information about the verb. So instead of just gracefully or quickly, so usually in an adverb you add an ly to the adjective, but an adverbial refers to the specific part of a sentence. So it can be she danced in a graceful way. So, or he ran all the time. So just think about it this way. An adverbial can be an adverb, but an adverb is the specific word. It's not a part of a sentence, it's not the part of a clause. So when you're talking about an adjective, when you're talking about an adjective that is turned into an adverb, so you add the ly at the end, you say it's an adverb. But if you're talking about a clause, if you're talking about the part of a clause, the part of a sentence that gives more information about the verb, you say it's an adverbial. So adverb to talk about specific words, specific adjectives, and adverbial to talk about a part of a sentence, a part of a clause. Is that okay with everyone? Okay, so back to direct and indirect objects. So, like I said, John sold me his boat. If you look at the example sentence right here. So, oh, I didn't mean to do that, sorry. So, John sold me his boat. The boat is being sold. So the boat is experiencing the verb action. The boat is being sold. Yes. Yeah, they do. So, okay. Let's see. So, an adverb is formed when you add an ly or an ily to an adjective. So both an adverb and an adverbial describes the verb. So you can see that both explanations say it gives more information about the verb. But an adverb is the specific word. An adverbial is the part of a sentence. So an adverbial, like you can see here, he said coldly. Coldly is the adverb, but if you want to describe the part of a sentence, the part that it plays in the sentence, we say this part, all of this part is an adverbial. So they're not that different. They're from like the same group. So just think about it this way, and you say an adverb when you want to describe that you've turned an adjective into an adverb. When you've already added an ly, or you've added an ily to the adjective to turn it into an adverb. You're describing the specific word. However, you use adverbial when you want to talk about the role, the part that it plays in a clause, in a sentence. So, she danced gracefully. This part is still the adverbial part of the clause, but it's just that the adverbial is an adverb. I know it all sounds confusing, so just keep in mind adverb to describe the word, adverbial to describe the part of a sentence, the part of a clause. So an adverb is usually just one word, gracefully, quickly. An adverbial can be a phrase. An adverbial can be more than one word because it's the whole part of a clause. It's the whole part of a sentence, while an adverb is just um, the specific word. Is that okay? Okay. Oh, all right. Okay. Yep. So, like I said, John sold me his boat. The boat is being sold. And then who is it being sold to? Who is the selling for? It is being sold to me. So, for example, I asked him some more questions. So, some more questions, this part is the direct object. The questions are being asked. Who is it being asked to? Who is it? Who is the verb being performed for? Him. So him would be the indirect object because the questions are being asked to him. It answers the question to whom or to what or for whom or for what. So I've got some exercises here that I'll do with you guys that explains more. About this. So choose the indirect object in this sentence. I owe you a brownie. Um, I'll just give a few seconds there. You can write your answers down, what you think is the indirect object on a piece of paper or something, or just keep it in your head, and then we'll move on to the answer. Okay. And so choose the indirect object in this sentence. The indirect object is you. So I owe you a brownie. What is being owed? The brownie is the direct object. And who is it being owed to? You. So owe means when you basically someone else when you basically need to give something to someone else. So let's say if a friend lent me money, I then owe him money. So I owe you a brownie means that I need to buy you a brownie sometime. Um, and like I said, what is being owed? The brownie. So that's the direct object. It's experiencing the verb owe. And then who do I owe it to? You. I owe you a brownie. Um, so I owe you a brownie follows a subject verb and object structure. All right, second one, choose the direct object in this sentence. Leah ate the sandwich as fast as she could. I feel a little bit like Dora the Explorer, just being like, answer this question, and then not knowing if you're answering it because I'm not there in person. Okay, so um, the sandwich would be the direct object in this sentence because the sandwich is being eaten. The sandwich is experiencing the eating. Um, so Leah ate the sandwich as fast as she could follows a subject verb object adverbial structure. So Leah, the subject, ate the verb, object the sandwich, as fast as she could gives us information about how she ate it. You can also use this to see the difference between an adverb and an adverbial. So if we wanted to use an adverb in this sentence, we would say Leah ate the sandwich quickly because an adverb is just one word. Um, but if we're saying Leah ate the sandwich as fast as fast as she could, it's not an adverb in itself because it's not just one word. So it's a part of a sentence that describes the verb. So an adverb can be in the adverbial part of a sentence, um, but it's not always in the adverbial part of the sentence. Now, choose whether the bolded part of the sentence is the subject, direct object, or indirect object. Are we supposed to bring Nina a birthday present? So, Nina, is Nina the subject? Is Nina the direct object? Or is Nina the indirect object? Yeah, this is very Dora the Explorer of me. Okay, so Nina would be the indirect object. This follows a subject verb and two object structure. So even in a question, the structures usually stay the same. There's just this extra bit of the sentence because we're rearranging things to make a question. So are we supposed to bring Nina a birthday present? We would be the subject. Supposed to bring would be the verb. And then Nina is the indirect object because we're bringing the present for Nina. And a birthday present is the direct object because it will be experiencing the bringing basically. So the birthday present is being brought. It is being brought to Nina. Nina is the indirect object because she benefits. She receives um, the benefit from the action. And this is just a simple question. So choose whether the bolded part of the sentence is the subject, direct object, or indirect object. You can recycle that water bottle. Is you the subject? Is you the direct object? Or is you the indirect object? All right. So this one is easy enough. You would be the subject of the sentence, and you can recycle that water bottle follows a subject verb object structure. So you is the subject, can recycle is the verb, and that water bottle is the object. So how do you write a sentence with a direct and indirect object? Basically, you can arrange the sentence in two ways. You can say a subject, verb, indirect object, and then direct object. So, John sold me his boat, or it can be subject, verb, direct object, and then you need a to or a for, like a preposition, and then the indirect object. So, John sold his boat to me. So, Um, I have some example exercises here. I'll do the first two with you guys, and then I've got more coming up. So we have already shown blank, and now there's Sam to the project. So, and then we will write blank, a letter slash John. So, if I'm looking at this structure, how do I arrange all of these words into the sentence? So we have already shown Sam, there's a to there. So I know that it needs to follow a subject, verb, direct object, and then indirect object structure because there is a to in there. So We have already shown the project to Sam would be my answer. And then we will write blank, a letter slash John. There's no to, there's no for, so I know that it has to be subject, verb, indirect object, and then direct object. So we will write John a letter. So we have already shown the project to Sam. So the project is the direct object, it's being shown. Who is it being shown to? It's being shown to Sam. Sam is the indirect object. We will write John a letter. So what is being written? A letter. Who is it being written to? John. But how do we arrange the sentence if there's no to? We're not being given a to um in the options. So we will write John a letter. We will write indirect object John a letter direct object. And then there's a couple of sentences here that you can do as well. So we'll go through them one by one. I can lend slash the book her. So remember again, there's no to, there's no for. So how do we arrange this? Um, and then they will immediately send blank us to an email. So there is to there. If there is a to, how do I need to arrange the sentence? So basically the same for all of these questions. Keep blank the place slash her slash for. There's a for there. What does that tell me about the way I need to arrange the sentence? They've bought blank daughter a flat there. There's no to, there's no for. What does that tell me about the way I need to arrange these words into the sentence? Basically. Show blank him slash the room slash to. You should give blank some flowers slash your teacher. My mom made slash for a cake me. We always read blank 2 stories our son. No problem, I'll bring blank you for it. So I'll just give maybe a minute or two there for you guys to answer the questions. Or you can just pause the stream for a moment. I don't know. I'm trying to create like a more kind of classroom environment through this live stream, but still figuring things out. Right. So I can lend her the book. There's no to or for. So what is being lent? The book. Who is it being lent to? Her. I can lend her the book. They will immediately send blank an email to us. So what is being sent? An email. This part, they give us to, so we need to use to in the sentence. So that means that we need to put the direct object before the indirect object. They will immediately send an email to us. Keep the place for her. What is being kept? The place. Who is it being kept for? Her. They've bought blank daughter a flat there. There's no to or for, so this tells me that I need to put the indirect object before the direct object. So they've bought their daughter a flat. The flat is being bought. Who is it being bought for? Their daughter. Show the room to him. So there's a to there. It tells me I need to put the direct object before the indirect object. So show the room to him. You should give some flowers slash your teacher. There's no to, there's no for. That means I need to put the indirect object before the direct object. The flowers are being given. They are being given to my teacher. You should give your teacher some flowers. My mom made a cake for me. There's a for there, so it tells me I need to put the direct object before the indirect object. What is being made? The cake is being made. Who is it being made for? For me. My mom made a cake for me. We always read stories to our son. No problem, I'll bring it for you. Same thing. The stories are being read. They're being read to our son. No problem, I'll bring it for you. What is being brought? It. Who is it being brought for? You. So I hope that this helps you guys understand direct object and indirect objects more. Um, I know it's been a little bit confusing, but hopefully with more practice, we'll get the hang of it. So, like I said, all of these slides, they will be available in this website. I will be my friend Yanire will be uploading them to this website, and you can find all of the exercises that we gave during our last session. Present perfect exercises. This is an explanation for modals. This is an explanation for present perfect, and then this is the story that we're reading. So thank you to everyone who has tuned in so far. I hope that this has been a helpful session. I hope that you're taking care. I hope you're being safe in your home. Stay safe, wash your hands, and I will see you next Saturday when we're gonna be reading chapter 2, The Lady in the Lake. And yeah, hope to see you guys then. Masalama.